Welcome to Baseball Card Illustrated, the channel where we discuss our national pastime and it's illustrated with baseball cards. I'm Bronko, the PSA 11.
I'm Kevin, soon to be replaced by better editions of Stadium Club and Ultra.
And this is Through the Mail Thursday, where we send out cards to some of the players that we come up with their image and likeness on Sunday's weekly Big Show, hoping to get them back signed through the mail.
And I love the fact that we have so many players that are willing to do that too. Players that people appreciated their careers.
And boy, do we have a handful with four autographs in this episode.
All right.
Let's start it off with Jeffballard.
There we go, a left-handed pitcher. And again, another
stands up.
classic example of that 1990 score set. Now this was your design. You were hoping to get these very sharp contrast, clear bordered cards signed. So in this case, it's a red border, and Ballard signs in blue, which I think works in this case. Blue or black could have worked in this case, but these 90 score literally just lends himself really well to an autograph.
I was going to say, and we're well into the 20s. If I hadn't run out of fingers and toes to count, I would probably be able to give you an accurate number here. But we've been able to get a number of these cards signed, and almost all of them look really sharp.
Yeah, they're displayable, no question about that. And Ballard, a 41-game winner in a
wow, that's quite the year.
No, not 1 year.
Oh,
unfortunately, no. He played for the Orioles and the Pirates between '87 and '94. So you're in the height of his career right here. Stanford Hall of Famer.
That's gonna really
Stanford Hall of Famer.
What you would not know necessarily looking at this card was this is probably literally peak Ballard, as he went 18-8 in 1989 when this photo would have been taken with a 3.43 earned run average.
Tied that year for 6th in the Cy Young voting with two other pitchers that were relative unknowns, Greg Olson and Dennis Eckersley.
So his teammate.
Yes, Olson, the closer, obviously on that Orioles team. What a turnaround! In '88 they were terrible, and in 1989 they were getting it done.
I'm going to say respectable.
How about that? Ballard, by the way, one note not to.
Here, I'll put it this way to make it a suspenseful thing.
Not to end on a sad note here with Ballard, but his career ended because of a car accident. His car collided with a semi-truck in 1995 in Idaho, and that was it for his career.
But still nice enough to sign that autograph, and that brings us to Kurt Stillwell. We talked on last week's episode about great segues.
Yes.
That, however, was not one of them.
Of all of the segues, that was one. Probably not one of the best ones. But Kurt Stillwell, there was a time where there was a lot of potential here. Now we're looking at a 1992 Donrusk card of Kurt Stillwell, and this would have been a little bit later. He'd been in the big leagues for a while at this point. Cincinnati, Kansas City. This is at the end of his Kansas City tenure. He played for the Padres and Angels, and then much later with the Rangers.
How long was he with the Reds? Because I know he was as I've looked things up, but I don't really remember him playing for them.
2 seasons, 86 and 87, and if I remember right, he was part of one of the greatest trades ever for the Reds, at least in the immediate. He was, see if I remember this right.
I'm trying to think who they would have gotten from the Royals, unless it was like a multi-team trade.
Now, I may be wrong about this. So I thought it was Stillwell for Danny Jackson, 1-for-1. That's what I thought the trade was, but I don't have that information in front of me. But Stillwell was an all-star in '88 with the Royals, so maybe it was something different. But he hung around for a while in the big leagues, and here by 1992, still scrapping along, and signed this blue bordered card in blue Sharpie.
And that takes us along to Deion James. So last week we had a card signed by Oddibe McDowell, and would you believe it? They were traded for one another at one point in their careers.
That's exactly right. Middle 1989, a little swap there that brought Deion to Cleveland, and that's where he is here in this 1990 scorecard. And again, the blue Sharpie on the blue background, just tremendous looking. Deion James was kind of a little guy, a little scrappy guy, and started his career with the Brewers.
I was going to say he bounced around a little bit. I remember the Brewers, and there were some other teams along the way for him.
Braves, Indians, Yankees. Spent a year in Japan and then came back and finished his career with the Yankees. But yeah, he was traded for once for Brad Kaminsky and once for Oddibe McDowell.
I was going to say, a relatively obscure name as we kind of move away from Deion James for a second here. We both kind of have a Brad Kamensk thing. And I'll go first because mine's not as interesting as what you were telling me off camera. But Kamensk came to the Brewers in 1987, played a handful of games, like maybe 15, 20. And he must have homered like right away, maybe his first at bat or something with the team. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go, a new power hitter, this is exciting. And like 3 weeks later, he was nowhere to be seen.
He did something similar in Atlanta, started his career with a bang and was, for them, the future. You know, there was a thought among fans that this guy was the future. Somewhere along the way, I have a Brad Kamensk autograph that I got on the bottom of a poster, but it's not a poster of him. I have to really dig deep at home back in Georgia to find it, but it's like, I want to say it's like a poster of like a museum or something like that.
Because you were getting it before he was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
That's it.
You knew it was going to happen, and then somehow he didn't follow the script.
Sometimes in life, you only meet Brad Kamensk a certain number of times, so you got to get it signed however you can.
Because he might end up in Milwaukee for a couple weeks.
You never know. But yeah, unfortunately for Brad, it didn't pan out so well. But he was a big strapping guy and a power hitter off the top for the Braves. But it just didn't map for him. But Deion James knows a little bit about that. That was a swap that was had.
So I guess if you're a big Deion James fan, you can leave a comment down below for us and tell us a little bit more than we offered up on him, because we found some other things that we found interesting. But now this here is a 1988 Fleer card, and I'm trying to put together a team set from this as a way to remember the 1987 Team Streak Brewers. And this here is Mike Felder, and I don't know how well anyone can make out what he wrote here, but you can see the quotation marks here with our lovely pointer here.
I like it. It's blue.
Can you figure out what that says?
Well, only because you told me that his nickname was Tiny.
Tiny, yep.
And so my first thought when I hear that was, I didn't remember Mike Felder being like 6'7", because there's two types of people that get the nickname Tiny.
And he was not the ironic.
No, he was 5'8" and 160 in his playing career, so he really was tiny. He wasn't.
And that was only if he was playing after a rain delay and he had stood out in the field and the jersey picked up 10 pounds.
So this isn't like if you call Randy Johnson tiny.
Right.
This is actually Tiny. Brewers draft pick in 1981, and then was with him from 85 to 90. A couple other teams toward the end of his career, but yeah, you're at as you would say, peak Felder probably right here.
Yeah, he was kind of I don't know if you really think of outfielders as a utility outfielder, but he was never really a main guy in the lineup or anything, but certainly had plenty of speed, as you might guess from that stature and the fact that he spent some time in the big leagues. Could steal some bases, and should probably point out that this was a $15 autograph, believe it or not.
Oh, so there was a charge.
There's a charge here, but if you want to get the set, there's some guys like, obviously, Robin Yount's going to be hard to track down for free. Paul Mahler's going to be hard to track down for free.
Sure.
And Tiny Felder, at least he signs through the mail, so we appreciate that. And I guess that kind of wraps us up, doesn't it?
We've got a nice mix here. If you were a fan of baseball in the late 80s, early 90s, you know these names, and you had a nice little trip down memory lane with these names.
So I got ahead of myself there. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be an all-star. And do that. Give us a thumbs up if you'd be so kind, and leave a comment down below. Especially, like I said, if you have anything on these guys, because these probably were not the some of the guys we've had in recent weeks, the Sandbergs and the Breams and the Herbacks and all those guys. But we do appreciate them nonetheless. So on behalf of Deion James, Kurt Stillwell, Tiny Felder, and Jeffballard, I'm Bronco, the PSA 11.
And I'm Kevin, I was going to make some joke about 1992 score, but, I'm Kevin.
We haven't gotten there yet.
No, not yet. I'm the Diamond King for the moment.
So long, everybody. You've been watching the Baseball Card Illustrated channel.